GERO 200. Hey, it's Sunday, right? October 3rd. So this is for Monday, October 4th, the next weekly assignment. And so I'm going to jump right into it. You guys, we are really enjoying how personalized your CT1s have been. It's kind of cool that I can tell a number of you kind of did a little bit of a deep dive and took the opportunity to look at some of your ancestral roots and look at your countries, and then where maybe your parents or grandparents may have come from, and then to take advantage of that opportunity of looking at the statistics. Okay, looking at stuff like lifespan and also the structure of the age, looking at working groups versus older and younger groups, and correlating that with historical events that happened in these countries. And it shows you the power of data, which is really neat. All right, so where are we? This the only heads up I have for you guys is this is the next event coming your way. You can take the exam anytime from October 17th through October 24th, so you have an entire week to do it. It's 60 multiple choice questions. Open up your browser multiple times. You can take a look at your old quiz sections. The way it works is just like the quizzes, we have pools of questions that the exam will be pulling from. So you may see some of the very questions that were on your quizzes, but you might not. You will not. There's oftentimes you won't. So you got to be prepared and just know where to search and where to hunt. Okay. You guys got it down, so don't worry about that. So, alrighty. So we're going to go directly into this week's assignments, okay? And as we scroll down here, it's kind of mind-blowing, but here we are entering our 7th week, all right? And we're going to talk a little bit about mental health, the psychological and biological aspects of it. And I just want you guys to know that we were all super excited about coming back in person, and check out my USC surf team shirt, and thinking that it was going to be the cure to all of our mental health issues that a lot of us were encountering, but it was just a whole new set of problems, and it's really hard to be a human being, and it's okay to be having difficulties. I'm always struggling with anxiety and wanting to do better and worrying about the future. And this is typical. And a lot of you may be depressed. I've heard from a lot of people that have come back, especially our juniors, who really had 2 years where they never really get a chance to know anybody. And then they get back and they're kind of disappointed that they don't have close friendships at USC or any of the other college campuses around the country, for that matter. It's all over different websites that are discussing the mental health issues that college students are having. So it's okay. All right. Alrighty. So week 7, what's newsworthy? It's just like, we can't catch a break. So 150,000 gallons of crude oil were dumped all over Huntington Beach yesterday. Oh my God. It just seems like it just never ends. That's going to be a tough cleanup. And for those of us that are from this area, it's really depressing. Okay. Alrighty, so my video is going to go right here. Again, I always encourage you guys to open your browser multiple times. I'm going to go over the information as it stands right here. The first thing you do is open your reading quiz, okay? And then you can go back and forth and back and forth, okay? And then we're going to make this discussion completely relevant to this week's lessons, okay? Alrighty. So what we're doing is mental health, okay? A spectrum of problems, okay? The one that really always jumps at you is, of course, the deterioration of cognitive abilities that happens to a very high percentage of older adults, and this is dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia, but there are other reasons why the brain can deteriorate, and we'll be looking into that, okay? Looking at that and having a spouse that has that kind of problem, and then you pile on some of the other health issues that we've talked about, cancer, diabetes, and any other disease of the vascular bed, which is, heart disease, kidney disease, and of course brain disease. It's no wonder that older Americans are oftentimes faced with mental health problems. Okay, I want to scroll down real quickly here. I just want to show you we provide this. So this is the most likely age of onset of major depression, and this is a 2000 paper, but these statistics have not changed as we've gone from 2007 to 2021. And and again, when your brain undergoes major development, so this is the most likely time for your first episode of depression. Okay, and you see this that you're very vulnerable in your teens into your early 20s. Okay, and then if you make it through here, your likelihood of having major depression. And again, major depression is a very debilitating physiological slash psychological disorder that can really cause great harm to you in terms of your quality of life and your ability to function. Okay, we see out here if you haven't already had depression, okay, then the likelihood of having a first major bout of depression is dramatically reduced out here into the older years. But that being said, if you were one of these collectives right here when you were in your 20s, so the wheels were set into motion, and this all has about genetics, environmental experiences, things that have happened to you, then it can kick up again and again and again. So it wouldn't be the onset, but it would be multiple episodes. Okay, so would you put that into your back pocket, because when we look at the statistics, and again, we always provide the PDF file just in case the website's not working. I always prefer to use the website. We're going to go right here to the American Psychological Association, and a real quick read, and detailing some of the psychological slash psychobiological problems that are happening. So the real challenges, as you get older, big ones. This would be an appropriate time to feel clinically depressed. Okay, so this is an environmental insult. You have a loss of a spouse. The physical problems that you may begin to encounter. All right, so you have arthritis. You just can't do the athletic things you used to do. You're losing your functional independence. So, and these all combine to create physical and mental health decline. Right? It's not a pretty picture, obviously, but it's something we all have to admit to. And sadly, in our society, we don't embrace psychological problems, mental health problems as a true health issue, okay? And people feel as though it shows weakness, and so then they don't seek help, and this only creates a kind of a downward spiral of problems, okay? So when I showed you that earlier figure, when I was right here, okay, and I'll scroll back down here, again, this is, the first onset of depression, okay? We see how that the percentage of the population first-time episode out here after your 60s is, less than 1%. But that being said, if you've had recurrent problems with depression, oftentimes they can get worse, okay? So when we look at the reality, so now we're going to look at the prevalence, okay? So if we just take a sample of people over the age of 55, okay, we see that 20% suffer from some type of mental disorder, okay? 2/3 of nursing home residents exhibit mental and behavioral issues, okay? And like I said, because of the stigma, very few people report it, okay? And the reality is, if you can treat the depression, the quality of life improves, you can get out there and regain your independence, hopefully some aspect of independence. Obviously, nursing home, it can be much more difficult. But it's just an improvement in life, and then that's going to parlay into our discussion. You don't want to be a burden to society, but having mental health issues is a significant financial blow to our country and to you as an individual when you're a caregiver. So anything we can do to improve it is going to have an overall benefit to all of us. Okay, all right, and especially if you're looking at the bottom line. All right. All right, so sadly, where we look at funding that goes towards mental health services, and obviously we We pushed in an emergency tons of funding into infectious disease. Thank you, Dr. Fauci and all his associates to tackle this problem of COVID-19. Cancer has a lot of funding. Okay, diabetes and heart disease have a lot of funding, but we see that the funding to look at mental health issues pales by comparison. Okay, so we need more funding of direct services. We need more funding of research, and that's what this is all about right here. Okay, when we look at some of the concerns, okay, that people have, we see that there's a lot of fear, okay, there's a lot of anger, stress, okay, and we see that all this right here parlays and interacts with the mental health issues to actually make you vulnerable to immune disease, okay? So there's, and you guys have seen this yourself a million times, where you're really stressed out, you're at school, finals week is coming up, and boom, the last thing you want to do is get a cold, a virus, and get sick, and you do. And it's because the stress is beginning to suppress your immune function. That's clearly been shown. I can get into the biology of that and T cell suppression, all this, but just take my word for it, okay? It also is going to chronic stress causes cardiovascular disease, okay, and does things even as because of your influence on the immune system, it can affect your recovery from surgery. Okay, all right. Now another thing to think about is when we look at sorry about that, my friends. I'm going to turn this thing off right here. Always when I do a recording, somebody texts me. Okay, when we look at again the large collective of people that do have clinical depression, we see that as many as 20% of older adults and 30% of nursing home residents, right, suffer from depression, okay? And when we look at the entire population, all right, even though Americans, we're only older adults are only 13% of the population, they account for a larger majority of people that try and commit suicide. And oftentimes, again, this can be appropriate for all the reasons that we talked about, okay, where you have a death of a spouse, just like it says up here in the preamble, loss of mobility, independence. These are all things that can trigger people to consider suicide. I actually had a conversation with an old friend of mine. His mom was amazing. She was really healthy, and she died at 104. And she was independent, living in her own home at 102. And she had lost all of her friends and spouses, lost a whole second set of friends, and she just wasn't into it anymore, even though she was still pretty functional. And so she had kind of a depressing Christmas dinner with the family, and was kind of reminiscing about her grandkids being little kids and opening presents, and of course that had disappeared. The kids came home, they're sitting on their phones, and then poof, they bolted and hung out with their friends, okay, the grandkids. So she voiced her disappointment in that, and then she went upstairs and took a whole bottle of Tylenol with OxyContin in it. And then she went to the top of the stairs. Here she's 102. And she turned around, put her hands up, and fell backwards. Down the stairs on purpose. And then luckily, all she did was break her wrist. And a week later, she was kind of over it, but it just shows you kind of a state of mind, okay? All righty. We can see that even though we should be on high alert, many people have just seen their physician within the last month, and the physician didn't see that coming. All right, so it's a big issue. All right, so what is a contributing factor? Well, certainly dementia, and we're going to learn in a second that dementia is a catch-all for cognitive decline associated with degeneration of the brain. Alzheimer's disease is the most common diagnosis, and even there's not full disagreement on, is it vascular disease that becomes Alzheimer's? There's such overlap, okay, and I just want you guys to know that, okay. It is irreversible. There are very few drug therapies out there. The drug therapies that are out there do not stop the degeneration. They barely even touch the cognitive abilities. We have a brand new antibody that's super expensive that you infuse that goes after one of the proteins that accumulates in the brain. Even though it's been approved, when you look at the clinical trial, marginal effect. So it's really kind of a sad situation. Okay. Um, so when we look at the likelihood, so you've fought the good fight, okay, and we look at people over the age of 65, okay, about 7% of Americans over the age of 65 suffer from dementia. And then you fast forward to over the age of 85, and we see that 30% suffer from dementia. And you keep adding years, you're going to increase the likelihood of suffering from dementia. It's a combination of events. Okay, you lose the adaptive, what's called plasticity, the ability to reform connections as you get older. Your vascularity goes down. Your ability to clear bad things goes down. So all these things contribute. All right. We see 12 million people worldwide, all right, and by 2025, 22 million people. All right, that's, we talk about, the pandemic and the millions and millions of people. This is an ongoing endemic. Okay, it's not going away, and it's going to be a burden to all of our societies, especially because of everything now about increasing numbers of older adults in every single country around the world. Okay, there's no blood test. Okay, but what's happening now is people that specialize in degenerative diseases of the brain with aging, neurologists, become much more effective at performing the cytological test, and that is the primary first screen to indicate somebody has dementia. It's called a mini mental status exam, and it's used worldwide. This can then be confirmed by doing imaging, depending on whether or not your insurance will cover it. So you can do what's called a magnetic resonance image, and you can just look for volume changes in the brain, certain areas that will shrink, especially if you want to, for example, decide whether or not the dementia is Alzheimer's or frontotemporal, where you'll see most of the degeneration happening right here in the front. Okay. All right. But that's the tool set. There's no blood test right now. Okay. And likely, sadly, there's no real good treatment. All right. So you just need to prepare yourself accordingly then for what we're going to discuss next week, and that is caregiving. So are you going to try and handle this yourself? Are you going to hire in-home care? How are you going to pay for this? Are you going to take your loved one who has Alzheimer's disease and put them into some type of specialized residential care unit that specializes in brain injury and Alzheimer's disease? All these are valid choices, but they all depend on your insurance, on your assets, and how much you're willing to spend. Okay? All righty. When we look at some of the things that happen as you get older, okay, it is depressing. So we saw this up here, okay? Again, loss of a spouse, okay? Loss of mobility. I'm an athlete. When the day comes and I can't surf, I'm going to be hell to live with, okay? Independence, and this decline in physical and mental abilities. I'm not as fast as I used to be, and it gets to you where you're like, God, come on, I want to be able to do the things I used to do in such a real kind of reflexive, fast way. Okay, when people are depressed, they often turn to substance abuse. Okay, alcohol being the one that's of course legal worldwide, and so it's the first one that people turn to. And sadly, it's self-medication. Okay, yes, for that moment, you feel better. But then what happens is the cumulative effects of alcohol can make the cognitive decline much more severe. The physical decline, so you lose your balance a lot more easily, can be tragic. So it's a huge issue. Okay, so we see that 5% of older men, 1% of older men have alcohol abuse and dependency problems. Okay, it can be bad enough. Okay, where it affects your gut, your liver. So now you don't have adequate nutrition. You don't clear substances from your blood that are toxic, and that's a major job of the liver, okay, as well as helping you with your metabolism, um, and significantly affects your cognitive functioning, okay. When we look at the total numbers, okay, 17% of older adults misuse or abuse alcohol and medications, okay. And again, physicians could do a better job of picking up on this. And this is what this is all about right here, okay? They're not, yeah, they're asked to self-identify rather than to sit there and get to know your patient and diagnose changes, okay? Alrighty, this goes through, some of the contributing factors as to why you might have substance abuse, why you might be depressed and consider suicide once again. And this is really outlines why right here we need people to specialize who are psychologists, who are psychiatrists, specifically in the issues that are relevant to people that are over the age of 65, over the age of 85, on and on. Okay? Just like we need psychologists and psychiatrists that are specifically trained to help people that are teens and early 20s. Okay, so everybody has their unique needs, and that's the issue that I want to talk about there. Okay, alrighty, so that's that right here. We then want you to go in and do a deep dive, and when you're doing the quiz and looking for Alzheimer's questions on Alzheimer's, we have a couple of quick videos right here. This is the numbers game, okay, of 2020, looking at the cost and the number of people that have it. It's a great video, super well done by the Alzheimer's Association. So this would be the demographics / epidemiology of Alzheimer's in our country. This right here is a video that is also includes the website that explains some of the basic biology. Okay, so you lose primarily the thinking part of your brain that separates us from other animals. All right, our cerebral cortex, specifically. We see early on the one that we use for forming new memories, the hippocampus dies off, and then it progresses to other areas where we retrieve some of our ancient memories from. Okay, there's been research for 50 years tapping into the known pathological measure that we see when you go post-mortem and you do you send off the brain to a pathologist. So if you donate your body to science, then they can go in there and look, and they see that a couple of different proteins aggregate and are much more numerous than people that don't have dementia, but it's not a given, okay? And so these are called amyloid plaques and neuritic tangles, okay? And they just reflect these weird protein aggregates in the brain that are thought to kill off nerve cells, and it explains why big chunks of the brain degenerates and shrinks, okay? My friend that was told about, his mom was 104, she donated her whole body to USC Keck School of Medicine because they really wanted to see what was going on that made her a centenarian and to be thriving most of her life, okay? All right. So that's what those videos are about, all right there, okay? Again, when we looked, I should have talked about this earlier, but when I was talking about, 20% of older people are depressed, but you see that we're looking at suicide right here, okay, by males, and it's primarily a male issue, okay? We look as a function of age, you see that the deaths per 100,000, this is our typical, okay, prevalence, okay, indicator right there. You see it goes up and up and up and up as a function of age, okay? And this was 1999, 2014, the stats have not changed much, okay? All right, cool. All right, and we'll get down here to the dementia in a sec. So what you do is when you're doing the dementia part, again, you go to this amazing website. All right, boom, I'm going to the NIA, National Institute on Aging, their website. And so we're looking right here at information about Alzheimer's disease, okay, and mental health problems. Actually, I want to get out of here when I come back in, just for a sec. Ready? Boom. Right, it's almost like, I think, there it is, okay. That was the fact sheet, and then this right here, yes, is the overall website. All right. So I'm sure you guys have family members that are at issue with this. So this is some of the symptoms and what you would do to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. And it goes to the things I talked about. Okay. Imaging of the brain, psychological analysis, and mini mental status exam. Here's the cause of Alzheimer's. Here's some of the basics right here. Okay. Here's a big issue that you're going to be confronted with: caregiving. And then here's other dementias, Alzheimer's just being one. So you could have a dementia from alcoholism, okay? That's called Korsakoff syndrome, Wernicke-Korsakoff's, okay? You could have a rare infectious particle called a prion disease, okay? So you've heard of mad cow disease, okay? Vascular dementia being a big one with lots of overlap with Alzheimer's. So this will get it. Sadly, all they do is help us in terms of diagnosing. There's none of the disease I just talked about are treatable. Okay. All right. Clinical trials are important, something to think about. Okay. And like I said, caregiving is so important. Treatment, it's all going to be about the caregiving, really. The drugs don't work very well, but check it out. Okay. All right, so this is the basics right here. You can look at cause of Alzheimer's disease right here if you wish, okay? And it's going to take you right in here. And here's some, new information that is that's talking all about what causes Alzheimer's disease. All right, all right. We can go right in there. All right, and it goes through some of the risk factors and some of the other problems. Now, what I prefer, the basic right here is the best page. All right, so you click on the basics of Alzheimer's, and then you can go right into the fact sheet. What is Alzheimer's disease? We can go into the fact sheet right here. All right, and so just scroll down, show some curiosity, and you'll see what's going on. All right, so again, this would be a pathology sample. This is somebody donated their brain to science. This is a normal person. Hopefully this is me. And then this would be somebody with severe Alzheimer's disease. And you see how much of the cortex has disappeared or degenerated. All right, like I said, there's these proteins that aggregate right here that talks about the plaques and the tangles. Okay. And there's much, much more to look in here. We look at, again, diagnosis, okay, all right, with respect to memory and cognitive issues, okay. We're looking for biomarkers, but these are not standard of care, okay. And here's all the staging on, and I just wanted you to check it out. Here's some genetics, okay. There's about a gene that handles the distribution of our fats, the triglycerides, and our cholesterol. All right, and so it's a collective of proteins, okay, and one of the proteins in LDL has this ApoE4 protein that is on its surface, and you can have this one ApoE4 variant that puts you at risk. Some people have ApoE2, they're not at risk. Some people have ApoE3, not at risk, okay? But if you have E4 from mom and E4 for dad, it increases your risk, but it's only a risk, okay? And it is thought to do to interaction with the vascularity. So this is a part of our proteins that are used to cart lipids all around, but also proteins that are used to remove debris from the brain. Okay, so anyways, check it out. I'm not going to go into each of those, but I just want you guys to show some curiosity there. Alrighty, where are we headed now? So we've gone through this. Again, these are the videos that this one was in that website. This is another one that shows you the epidemiology. And so going back to depression, we see, again, this is a different type of prevalence. Usually it's per 100,000, but this is prevalence per 100, okay? And we're looking at here. So this would be a percentile basis. And we see you get up here into, again, like what was reported, if you look on average, men and women, so men being the lighter green, women the darker green, this is now the likelihood of dementia, and we see that it goes up and up and up and up and up, okay? What happens here is women go through menopause and then they skyrocket, okay? And the other thing is men don't live as long as women. And so the men that do live might be hardier. So that's a kind of a sociological phenomenon. So again, this is looking at dementia by sex, okay? All righty. So we're looking at the projections, okay? So you see here by 2050, almost 13 million people 65 and older are projected to have Alzheimer's disease, okay? So right now we're at 6.2 million. So this is the baton that we're passing to you guys. This is a big burden, a huge burden, okay? Personal and sociological, you know, at the level of our federal government, the level of taxes that you pay, all these things you have to think about, okay? We see that again, as I showed you in the earlier slide, majority of women, okay, have dementia. If we look at the numbers, men versus women, women outnumber men, okay. We see there is a racial ethnic disparity, and this is from, you know, again, Alzheimer's is not something that happens overnight. So this is from healthcare, sociological inequities throughout life, okay? And it has this cumulative effect, all right? So we see this both Blacks and Hispanics, okay? Awesome. Again, these are some numbers that are just kind of shock and awe, okay? And again, it shows you the disparity that's out there, okay? In terms of Alzheimer's care as a function of your ethnic background, right? So we see here that when we look at seniors, okay, 1 in 3 die from some form of dementia, okay? Right now, we have more than 6 million people in our country living with dementia. We saw this dramatic increase in deaths, sadly, with COVID because we had basically too many balls in the air. We're juggling everything. Something had to give, and care towards people with dementia, care towards people with cancer, care towards people with diabetes fell through the cracks. It's a bummer, okay? Alrighty. If we look at caregivers, okay, and the cost close to getting up on there at $300 billion, okay? This is the cost to our nation in 2021, okay? By 2050, trillions of dollars, okay? These are all numbers that you have to wrap your head around. Okay, awesome. So in the discussion, okay, we're looking at the cost and the cost to you, okay? So we have this lost productivity when you're a caregiver. It's your parent, it's your grandparent. What are you going to do? All right. The cost for nursing facilities, okay, for health and long-term care is astronomical. Okay. We see that such a high majority of people in these nursing facilities do suffer from Alzheimer's. All right. So you look at all the issues right here. Okay. Medicare. Okay. Beneficiaries. All right. And how that parlays into this, okay? So I want you to consider all that and then look down here at you, all right? This is actually your parents, but you know what? You guys are right there with them, all right? So these are the millennials, okay? And the impact that it's having on them. All right, this is a recent USC study, okay? And we see that 33% reported interference with their work, all right? So that's going to limit your professional progression if you're always having to take time off to deal with caregiving, okay? And it only gets worse over time, okay? 14% of these millennial caregivers actually stopped working, all right? The average age of the caregiver, 27, right? Right around the corner for you, okay? We see that your job is to be working in constant communication with the healthcare providers, okay? And you're doing many nursing tests now. So you're gonna learn on the fly how to nurse your cognitive impaired parent or grandparent, all right? We see that the majority, okay, um, are women, okay? And all told, 15% of people in this age group were doing caregiving, all right? You see that you have to travel, and I was sandwiched in this. I live in Laguna Niguel. I worked at USC. Luckily, I was in the same community. My mom lived in Monterey Park, but I found myself driving all the time in terms of caregiving, and I had young children too, so it was a serious strain, believe me. All righty. And as you see right here, we don't have these multi-generation households, all right? 86% live in a separate city household, and then you encounter the kind of things that I did, where you're on the freeway all the time, all right? You have caregivers, almost 80% experience emotional distress. I did. God, I mean, I just felt like I wasn't there for my wife and my kids because I'm on the freeway all the time, okay? Um, we need resources. All right, we need resources. I wish society was better equipped. Okay, so this right here shows you the impact on caregivers like myself, like you. Okay, this right here is a beautifully done video. It's a few years old. It shows you what a cognitively impaired adult looks like. It shows you the power of music. These are the only things we have. Okay, I had a good friend the other day ask me when I was surfing. My mom's got dementia. Where's the best place to go? What should I do? I said, look, there are no drugs. All you can do is read to them, dance with them, put on music, keep them engaged. If they have friends or you have support group friends, keep them lively, fun food. That's all you have at your disposal that will hopefully make them comfortable. Okay. So what are you guys going to do? Okay. We've heard the big budget thing that's going on, okay, right now with our Congress and Senate and Joe Biden, Joe Manchin, all the other Joes, okay. So if you were staring down the barrel of this, okay, we've heard that they're looking for university daycare, and that's a huge issue for you guys too. You're going to have kids soon. What are you going to do? Okay. We want, help with parents in terms of kindergarten. But what about older people? They were talking about vision care, okay, dental care. How about this? How about this? How about some caregiving policies? And that's what we want you guys to do. All right, so you just got elected to Congress. Tell me how you're going to rifle this thing through. All right, guys, that's it for now. Peace, and we'll see you next time.